Good morning, Gretchen. How are you today? Today we will start with lesson 7, which is talking about double angle and half angle identities. In the previous lesson, we talked about the sum and the difference identities, and we say that if we have two angles, if I have to find as an example the sine of 105, you can say it is 60 plus 45, and I can use the sine of 60 and the sine of 45 to find the sine of 105 by using some identities. Today we will talk how can we find the sine of angle 120 using sine 60. Let's see how. Now, I want now to introduce you the identities that is talking about the double angle. I mean, if I have 120 and I want to use the sine of I'm sorry, they asked me to find the sine of 120 and only have 6 sine 60. So what I have to do? Here we are some identities that I can use. I can say cosine 202 times 60 or 2 theta is cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta, or 2 cosines squared theta minus 1, or 1 minus 2 sine squared of theta. I want you to know that this is the main, and these two are derived from the first one. For the sine, it is 2 sine theta cosine theta, and for the tan, it is 2 tan theta over 1 minus tan squared of theta. Now, let's start with problem number 1. How can we derive a double angle identity? I want now from this one, the first one in the red circle or in the red oval, to derive this identity that cosine 2 theta is 1 minus 2 sine squared of theta. How? Did you remember the Pythagorean theorem that we said that sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta is equal to 1? Okay. Can I say that cosine squared, if I put it here and isolate it on term, it will be 1 minus sine squared of theta. These are now the first equation. The second one, which is the main one I told you, which is this one. Did I know, and I know that cosine 2 theta is cosine squared minus sine squared. Okay, now what is cosine squared? Keep it here. I want to substitute now with 1 minus sine squared of theta minus this one, which is sine squared of theta. Then it will be 1 minus sine squared of theta minus sine squared of theta. 1, it's like 1 minus x, which is 1 minus 2x. So here it is 1 minus 2 sine squared of theta. So I derive it. And now problem number 2, we want now to use this double angle identity. What is the exact value of cosine 120? Now, we know that 120 is 2 times 60. So cosine 120 is the same as 2 cosine times 2 times 60. And we know that cosine 2 theta is cosine squared of theta minus sine squared of theta. So here it will be here it will be sine, cosine squared of theta minus sine squared of theta. Now, after that, cosine squared. Now, what is the theta here? Here it is 2 theta, so theta here is 60. So cosine squared of 60 minus sine squared of 60. Here it's 60, sorry. Now, cosine squared of 60. What is the cosine squared of 60? It's the same as sine 30, which is half. Half squared minus sine 60, which is square root of 3 over 2 squared. Now 1 over 4 minus 3 over 4, which is negative 2 over 4, or negative half. This is now the cosine of 120. Look how we use this identity to find the cosine of 120 without using the calculator. Now, if you use cosine squared of theta minus sine, or 2 cosine squared minus 1, or 1 minus 2 sine squared, the answer will be the same. Okay, now, what is the exact value of sine 120? Now, sine 120, as I told you, it is 2 times 60. Sine 2 theta, it is 2 sine theta cosine theta. It is 2 times. What is the sine of 60? It is square root of 3 over 2. What is the sine of the cosine of 60? It is half. So square root of 3 multiplied by 2 is 2 square root of 3 over 4. So it is square root of 3 over 2. Why? Because after simplifying here, it will be like this. Now, this one, I find the exact value of sine 120 by using the double angle identity. Can you use it to find, the exact value of sine 120, but using now the sum identity, using the previous lesson? Let's see. 120, is that 90 plus 30? Yes. So sine 90 plus 30. It is sine 90 cosine 30 plus cosine 90 sine 30. Now what is sine 90? It is 1. What is cosine 30? Square root of 3 over 2 plus 0 times half. So it is square root of 3 over 2. So if you want to find sine 120 by using the double angle identity or by using the sum identity, you will get the same answer. Okay, now I want now to verify this identity, that cosine 2 theta is 1 minus tan squared over 1 plus tan squared. Now, let's start with the second term. 1 minus tan squared of theta over 1 plus tan squared of theta. Now, look down. 1 plus tan squared. Did you remember the Pythagorean theorem when I told you that sine squared plus cosine squared equal 1 and tan squared plus secant squared equal 1? So 1 plus tan squared is what? Is secant squared. Then, and as I told you in the first semester, that 1 minus x over y, if you distribute it, is it y 1 over y minus x over y? Yes, I will distribute it here as the same. So it will be 1 over secant square of theta minus tan squared of theta over secant square of theta using the distribution property. Now, what is secant? Did I finish? No, what is secant? Secant, it is 1 over what? If it starts with letter S, so it is start with letter C. 1 over cosine squared. here we have theta, so here it will be theta minus. What is tan? It is sine squared over cosine squared. And what is secant? It is also 1 over cosine squared. Now, before I finish, here it is 1 over, I'm sorry, here it is 1 over cosine squared. The secant is 1 over cosine squared of theta. Then, now, do you remember when I told you if 1 over b, it is the same as what is equal to b. So 1 over cosine squared is cosine squared. Then you have a over b over 1 over b. Can you b cancel b? Yes, it will be a over 1. Here is the same. Cosine squared cancel cosine squared, so it will be sine squared over 1 or sine squared. Then cosine squared minus cosine squared, is it cosine 2 theta? Is it this rule? Yes. So I prove what the identity. Now here we have these exercises. Use the double angle identity to find the exact value of each expression. Tan 120. 120 is 2 times 60. So it is tan 2 times 60 or tan 2 theta. Now go back to the double identity. What is tan 2 theta? It is 2 tan theta over 1 minus tan squared. So it is 2 tan theta over 1 minus tan squared of theta. Now 2 times, what is the tan of 60? Tan 60. Now we know that tan is sine over cosine. What is sine of 60? The square root of 3 over 2. Over 1 over 2. It's cancelled, so square root of 3. 2 square root of 3 over 1 minus square root of 3 squared. So it will be 2 square root of 3 over 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So it will be negative square root of 3. What about sine 90? I know that is 1, but I want to prove that sine 90 is 1 using the double angle identity. Is sine 90 is 45 times 2? Yes, so it is 2 sine theta cosine theta. 2 sine 45 times cosine 45. Now, then 2. What is the sine of 45? It is 1 over square root of 2. What is the cosine of 45? It is 1 over square root of 2 also, because I told you that the sine and cosine of 45 are the same. Then 2 times 1 over times 1 is 1. Square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 2 is 2. Simplify 1. That's why sine 90 is 1. Now cosine 240. 240, it is cosine 2 multiplied by 120. Now, so now cosine, shall we use the second one? Okay, I want to use 2 cosine squared 2 cosine squared of theta minus 1. Okay, now 2 times, what is the cosine of 120? Is negative 1 over 2 squared minus 1. It is 2 times negative 1 over 2 negative 1 squared 1 over 4 minus 1. Simplifying, it is 2. 1 over 2 minus 1 is negative half. This is now the cosine of 240. If you check this answer by calculator, you will find that your answer is correct. That's how can we find the cosine of 240 using the identity. So now by now you can find any angle using the sum difference, the sum, the difference, and the double identities that I can use to find any unknown sine or cosine and or tan of any unknown angles. Tomorrow, inshallah, I will introduce you how can we use the half angle identity to find now the unknown identities using the main angles. Thank you for listening.